After the first attempt failed, the narrator decided to go back to the same address and try it for the second time. This time she was confronted by a young girl of 15. She was Mrs. Darling's daughter. The narrator asked her if her mother was at home. The girl replied that her mother had gone out of the house for some time. The narrator said she would wait for her to return. She welcomed her into the house. As the narrator entered the house, she saw their familiar Hanukkah candle holder hung next to a mirror. She remembered that they had never used it as it was more complicated than using a single candlestick. The girl asked her to sit down as she opened the door for the living room. As she walked into the living room, she saw all of the belongings with which she had grown up. The narrator was horrified. She said, "I was in a room I knew and didn't know." The narrator conveyed her uneasiness as she was present in the room of Mrs. Darling's house, filled with her mother's belongings that were familiar to the narrator. But at the same time there was strangeness in that familiarity. She saw familiar things, but arranged differently, that lent unfamiliarity to the surroundings. She found herself surrounded by things that she had wanted to see again, but the things oppressed her in this strange atmosphere. The narrator wanted to say that that room was different, but the things around the room was familiar. They brought back haunting memories of the past to oppress her, and didn't succeed in making the narrator find her previous self. The narrator was pained to see that all her own things were arranged tastelessly. The ugly furniture and the unpleasant smell created the feeling that she did not know the room. She had no courage to look around her. It might evoke the memory of the war again and reminded her again of her dead mother. These things troubled her a lot in an unusual manner. The girl asked her to sit on the chair, and the narrator sat down. The narrator began running her fingers around the familiar woolen tablecloth. Her fingers grew warm. The author had recognized that it was their tablecloth. She felt the warmth of memories. Her hand moved along the design made on the tablecloth. She remembered that at the edge of the tablecloth there was a mark of a burn, which was not repaired. The narrator was searching for a burn mark, which is a symbol for that she was searching for her earlier foundation by searching for some resemblance in their past things. The narrator was waiting for Mrs. Darling to come back, which the young girl informed that her mother will be back soon. The girl asked the narrator if she would like to have some tea. The narrator agreed. The narrator noticed that the girl had a similar broad back like her mother, Mrs. Darling. The girl was pouring tea from a white teapot whose lid had a golden border, the narrator recalled. It was theirs, she remembered. The young girl opened an antique box and took out some spoons. The narrator complimented the girl about the box. The narrator said it was a nice box. The narrator felt weird hearing her own voice. It was sounding different to her. In spite of knowing that the nice box belonged to her, the narrator tried to sound genuine in her compliment of the beautiful box. The little girl asked the narrator if she knew about these things. She turned her face towards the narrator and brought tea. The young girl was amused at the compliment, and nonchalantly, means in a casual manner, said that they had lot of other boxes similar to it, which her mother said that they are antique, which the narrator already knew. The young girl said they had more such pieces and asked the narrator to have a look at those. She also observed that Mrs. Darling's daughter loved those possessions quite dearly and was proud of possessing them. Without even following the young girl's hand, the narrator knew that what things the girl was talking about. The young girl obviously did not know all those things belonged to the narrator's family. The narrator said, I just looked at the still life over the table. By the still life, the narrator means the things over the tea table, such as the tablecloth, teapot, cups, and the spoons. The narrator saw all the inanimate things over the tea table, things which once belonged to her mother and had been hers. All her childhood memories came flooding back, and she became nostalgic. She remembered that how as a child she had always liked the apple on the pewter plate. Pewter is a type of alloy. Pewter plate, the picture as it is given in the slide. The young girl now told the narrator her memories that were attached to those things. The young girl said that they had used all the cutlery that could be seen for everything, and even ate off the antique plates that hung on the wall. She was so eager to eat in those plates, but eventually did not turn to be anything special.